osu420 is definitely one of the most mysterious players I've ever come across. If you played newly ranked maps recently, you've likely seen him as one of the first few plays on a map, usually with not the most exciting mod combinations. He submits plays like these a lot, pretty much on every newly ranked map, which by itself is kinda whatever, as a lot of score farmers have been doing this for much longer than he has. But then you check the convert leaderboards, and there he is again, on every single map, in every single mode. Interesting. You can check this for yourself too. Click any newly ranked map, and check the leaderboard in all 4 modes. He'll always be there. Now this is obviously pretty weird, but I'm sure he's just some guy like the rest of us. I wonder what happens if I try to talk to him. Oh, okay. Alright, he may have a user page or some social media, and no, he doesn't. As far as I'm aware, this guy has nearly 4,000 hours on Osu and has zero contact with anyone inside the community. If you have more than one brain cell, you're probably thinking, oh, have you tried spectating him and talking to him that way? Which, yes, I have. And that led to some equally strange interactions, which I'll get into in a moment. Before I talk about all that, I want to go over his profile and scores a little more, since they let us learn a little bit more about him as a player. Checking his profile shows a blank profile pic, no previous username changes, and a pretty generic username. So, awesome. This gives us zero information to find him anywhere else on the internet. Like, what am I supposed to do? Google osu420? All this gives me is Reddit threads mentioning him and the Huion tablet of the same name. Along with the generic profile pic and username, a lot of things on his profile are blank. No comments, no forum posts, no user page, no pinned scores, no favorited beatmaps, no submitted beatmaps. It's just a whole lot of nothing other than playing the game. His recently played tab shows one of his more unique characteristics. Now, with players with this much playtime, generally you'll play Osu more as like an RPG. Think score farmers, leaderboard farmers, or SS farmers, or a combination of them. It's a lot more motivating to play the game in a grindy way, compared to, say, skill cap grinding, since increasing your score or amount of leaderboard scores you have is a lot more linear and motivating than increasing your PP or skill cap, where you can have good or bad periods. Yeah. Now, osu420 is extremely different because no one really knows what he's trying to do. He's number 28 in rank score, but it doesn't look very intentional. Like, what self-respecting score farmer would use spun out and easy and halftime this much when they're literally score-reducing mods? He doesn't go for leaderboard spots either, since, again, score-reducing mods. It's kinda hard to get on a leaderboard with those. The only possible thing you could be attempting is Osu completion, which he's made great progress at, but then again, why does he play other modes? He could be going for all mode completion, but unlike Osu Standard, he very rarely plays other modes outside newly ranked maps. Also, yeah, you'll notice he puts on like 3 trillion mods and plays half the map and goes AFK. Why? I don't know. A lot of what he does seems to follow no logic, which is part of why it makes him so interesting. His play count picked up a ton around January 2023 and hasn't slowed down since. This month is especially impressive since it's only the 19th and he's nearing his peak play count. If he keeps up this pace, which he likely will, he'll be getting around 8,600 play count. That number is already pretty impressive, but what's even more impressive is how he very, very rarely retries, meaning each play count is one map played in full. Maybe to put his playtime spike in perspective, we can do a little math using the Wayback Machine. On November 15th, which is the furthest back we could go where his playtime is still visible, he had 3,371 hours. Right now, he has 3,810, meaning he's averaged 6.75 hours of playtime per day in the past 65 days. Quite impressive, but it only counts for his standard playtime. Remember, he plays Mania, Catch, and Tycho as well. His playtime in the other modes isn't available on the Wayback Machine, so the best I could do is just estimate. From what I've seen, he submits an average of 200 Osu standard plays per day, which takes 6.75 hours of playtime to do. Now, adding up the amount of Tycho, Catch, and Mania plays he's submitted today, and assuming it takes the same time as standard, that's another 3.21 hours of playtime he's done in other modes, meaning he averages nearly 10 hours of in-game Osu playtime every single day without break, for at least the last 2 months. This still doesn't even include the time it takes to menu, download maps, or change mods, which remember, he does very, very often. Now, even though he plays an inhuman amount of osu per day, that really isn't the most interesting part about him. Now, with this guy being seemingly uncontactable, I did the obvious and tried to contact him. The easiest way is just spectating him, and since he's permanently online and also in the same time zone as me, it's not that hard. The first strange thing that happened is every time I spectated him, he would just log out and log back in, so I would just be removed as a spectator. I was watching Momo stream and he mentioned that he also tried to spectate him, and the same thing happened where he'd log out and log back in. Of course, you could always just spectate him again, but he would constantly do this, almost like he didn't want you as a spectator. I've heard people claim this is evidence he's botting, or an AI, essentially Neuro-sama too if she is low-key retarded, but I honestly just think he's a little camera shy. Since there's spectator chat, I obviously tried getting his attention, but he just never answered, or seemed to even read what I said, so that's unfortunate. I mean, I could spam and hope he notices me eventually, but for the sake of appearing not weird, I didn't. So, of course, when he shows clear signs of me not wanting to spectate, I did the very same thing of spectating him over and over for an hour straight. After a while, he just seemed to give up, and I kept spectating for another 4 or 5 hours. Now, I learned a few things from watching him that I think shows there's some method to his madness. Generally, he plays in a pretty simple way. When there's a newly ranked map, play it immediately. I've even seen him multiple times after he's done a play session come back online, literally just because a new map has been ranked. Now on the new map, he plays every single diff with whatever mods he feels like, it really doesn't matter. Then he plays every diff again in Catch, Mania, and Taiko, doing quadruple the amount of effort any osu completionist usually needs to do. Once that's done, I believe he just starts playing random maps in his library that he hasn't submitted a score on. It's a little strange to witness, since other completionists tend to play maps with a certain theme for that session. I'll use Momo as an example, since he regularly streamed his osu completion sessions. Like, some days he'll only play low star maps, some days he'll only play maps ranked in a certain year, etc. osu420 on the other hand seems to spam F2 to pick maps he plays. It's so funny watching him play a 2009 Insane diff, then a modern tech map right after. He usually keeps this routine, but when I start spectating, he starts acting a little weird. Like, one time he did his usual logging off then logging back in shenanigans. But when that didn't work, he started playing the Shrek movie on halftime. Why? What does this mean? He's not that insane though, because after a few minutes he just AFK'd the rest. The next day I spectated him again, and he just did it again! Why? What does this mean? Though after a few days of just straight spectating him instead of playing the game, I finally got his attention, albeit not with words. First, he played one of my maps, which is probably the only confirmed acknowledgement of my existence that he's ever given me, and I was quite pleased. Then, every once in a while, I think he was trying to communicate to me through osu map names. Like, when I would start spectating him, sometimes he would play maps with tons of question marks, or sometimes draw question marks. Like he was asking why I was spectating so often, for hours at a time. Then he started playing weed-themed maps, since my osu username is Weed Machine. I only have one screenshot of this, but he did play 2 or 3 more maps with weed in the name. And yeah, that's all that really happened. It would be cool to see him type a single word one day, because all he really does with the keyboard is just play osu. That's part of my motivation to make this video, to get his attention and maybe even get him to watch this video. It would be cool to at least understand why he does the things he does, but until that happens, osu420 will be one of the most mysterious players in osu.